what was life like for you growing up?
Hmm. Okay, cool. Are you thinking birth
Yeah,
to
just
high school, college?
just
Yeah,
childhood,
yeah,
childhood,
yeah,
high school, were
yeah.
you, into sports? Were you kind of always an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
family?
Yeah. All right, good. So I grew up in Crawford County, between Bucyrus and Galion, Ohio, which is north central Ohio. Oh gosh. Anyway, Colonel Crawford schools, we were kind of considered the cow town, or we were considered country, country people, even though a lot of us lived in subdivisions like my parents did. But anyway, a lot of farmers, a lot of agriculture around us. But quick, to answer the question, I mean that's where I was from like second grade on. Went
Okay.
through high school, got into sports. My dad was there's more to his story, but basically he was a coach in multiple sports back in that. If you ever watched the movie Hoosiers, he was kind of like that era.
Okay.
Coach in a really small gymnasium over in Ridgeway, Mount Victory, Ohio, Ridgemont High School, and
Okay.
then when I was young, they moved over to Crawford County. He took a job as a guidance counselor, but he never coached after that. But he always like I grew up with him coaching me basically. So he was, definitely my hero in many ways, and loved playing sports, and always tried to learn from him, and really a competitiveness developed. I think the way we like he wouldn't just throw the ball to me. He'd throw the ball so I had to dive for it, or you know, uh,
Yeah.
or he'd hit the ball to me, or he'd give me batting practice. We played like I grew up playing little league baseball. Babe Ruth, started out playing baseball in high school. But really what was funny is I changed all my sports, and this is a little bit of my entrepreneurial journey. um, I was starting as a baseball player at JV as a freshman, but my other sports I was sitting the bench, basketball and football and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
my brother had gone into cross country, and our high school was really had a lot of really good runners back in those days. And so I followed my brother into cross country, and eventually, because my basketball skills weren't so good, I got out of basketball as a freshman and went into swimming and swam 3 years. We were one of the smallest schools in Ohio that had a swimming pool because we had a Timken roller bearing plant in our school that funded it for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when they built our high school, they built a swimming pool, which made us one of the smallest schools in all of Ohio with a swimming pool. So
That's
anyway, that
cool.
was, I guess, what I'm trying to get to is that when I switched my sports, I went from team sports to individual sports. So
Mm,
cross country was, while it was a team sport, it was also much
right.
about, you got to do your best, to help the team. That's the same way with swimming. If you, finish first, second, or third, or, you get score in a meet, so it really kind of did develop some entrepreneurial spirit, I think, in me of, you're kind of dependent on how well you do. You got to do well for yourself and for the
Yeah.
team. And so,
Yeah. I was gonna ask you, what was it like to have a coach, for a dad? Because I feel like you you have someone like that, right? Typically, coaches are always trying to learn, right? They're always trying to develop. They're trying to find an edge. They're competitive, like you mentioned. What were
yeah.
some of the the things that you took away, maybe,
No,
um,
yeah.
you growing up?
Yeah. That's a good question. I mean, I really did. He was my hero in so many ways. Just a quick side story. He was such a good baseball player that he had a tryout with one of the it was a farm team for like the St. Louis Cardinals or something. And
Oh,
I
cool.
mean, I'm a little older, so my dad was in World War II. So he, right after he tried out for, the farm team, he ended up going into World War II. Went to Europe. He was in Europe during World War II, right? 20 some days after in,
Wow.
what they called D-Day plus 21, meaning that 21 days after they came on the beaches at Normandy.
Yeah.
But anyway, So I just give you that background, but yeah, it's interesting. He was, I guess, he died in 2003, and that's a little part of my story. I'll get back to, but
Mm,
when he passed away, um, let's see, trying to think how I was going to set that up. Um, there's I'm getting confused because there's actually multiple parts to the story that I kind of thought
yeah.
about, but I guess I would say that when basically I got up and talked about my dad during his funeral. That's what I was referring to. And one of the things I loved about my dad was he wanted, if we were watching a Ohio State game and we both, I grew up to love Ohio State Buckeyes because of him. Um, he would call it as he saw it, not as like, I love that about him, that, it wasn't, that should have gone our way, even though it really, the call was proper or something. You know,
Right, right, right.
he would call it the way it should have been called, not the way it would have gone our way.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
love that about him. I try to be that way when I'm watching games too. Um,
yeah.
but uh, I guess it's hard to answer your question in one sense. I mean, we definitely, like I said, we would do batting practice. I would hit tennis balls towards our house with aluminum siding, yeah, which wasn't the greatest idea. But we had a big enough yard that I wasn't hitting the house too much. But
Yeah, yeah.
a good hit
um,
was one that went over the roof.
yeah, yeah. So kind of lead me in through, high school to graduating. Did you end up going off to college? Kind of what were your next
Yeah,
couple steps?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah. So, just follow up a little bit on that story. So, I followed my brother into, and I think this is worth mentioning too. I followed my brother into cross country. Like I said, we had a really good team. When I was a
mhm,
freshman in high school, my team got second in the state, but I didn't contribute to that. I wasn't in the state meet. I didn't, wasn't part of that top seven or anything that got to run varsity. But and my brother didn't get to either, even though he was a senior, because he was actually too old to participate. He had been held back. He had been born with his hip out of socket. They call it a
mm,
congenital hip. Anyway, getting too deep there, but just to say that um, I was around a bunch of guys that were very good and very talented, but also a lot of hard workers and stuff like that. So, and I had a great coach. That coach um, really kind of put us through our paces of hey, we're going to run this course today. Last time you ran this course, this is how fast you ran it. You finished in this place on the team. He would lay out all these statistics. So it became,
yeah,
hey, now I got 5 goals to hit. I want to improve my position on the team. I want to improve my time on that course. And so he kind of developed this competitiveness in us, and he would highlight, if you'd done something right or whatever. So anyway, we went from, I wanted to say the story of, second in the state, um, and me not being a part of that, to the next year I got to run in the state meet in the
oh,
top
cool.
seven. I was, remember we ran at Ottawa Glandorf and I got fifth on our team. It was like the first time I ever got fifth on our team in the varsity as a sophomore, and helped us get to the state meet. But then I fell apart at the state meet and didn't, probably finished seventh on the team. But anyway, eventually I got to be pretty good. So I tell people I walked on at Ohio State, not in football, but and to see me now, you wouldn't think I was a runner because I'm way overweight. But referencing something you said to Leah Ackerman, I was watching earlier, that realtors, are invited to eat all the time. So that, yeah, I, I participate in a little too many of those realtor events when we get to eat free food. But anyway, uh, as a senior, I got to the point where I got pretty good and ended up going to Ohio State. And then around my sophomore year, I decided to walk on to the cross country team. So I got to run a few meets at the Ohio State. Wasn't a football player; I was a walk on the
Yeah,
cross country. So
that's awesome
feel
though.
the
It's just, I'm sure there's a lot that I always find as I interview, agents, and there's a lot of things that probably happen earlier in our lives and in our careers that have huge impacts,
Yeah.
of our future business. And I'm sure, to get to that level, even, walking on, or even collegiately, D3, D2,
Mhm.
D1, it's attention to detail, right? It's surrounding yourselves with other great people to push you. It's the competitiveness. It's, the will to actually want to practice and show up every single day when you don't want to. The discipline, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure that took a ton of discipline,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
far as to
and
get to that level.
yeah, actually, I'd have to thank my brother for a lot of that. He kind of drove me. He's like he's the one that's saying, "Hey, let's go out and run this, run this or that."
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, he definitely he became kind of a pseudo coach in a way because he
yeah,
would
for
push me
sure.
to do more than I wanted to do myself. So
Yeah, and I'm sure that had a huge impact on you. I mean, that's what one of the one things I tell, real estate agents all the time. I think, I believe that everyone should have a coach. I believe that everyone should have a peer, right? Someone like your brother. Hey, we're both going through this together. Let's get through the
yeah,
lows together. Let's get through the highs together. And then I believe that, everyone can coach someone to get to where they're currently at, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know, whether it's, hey, you want to break 15, a 16, minute 5K, okay, cool. I can show you what it takes in order to get there.
yeah, yeah,
Whatever the case may be. So
yeah,
so did you end up graduating then from Ohio State? And
yeah. Actually, can you hear me? Okay.
yeah,
Oh, okay, good. Um, yeah, I graduated from high state in mechanical engineering of all things. And
okay,
I followed a good friend of mine. He knew he was going into mechanical engineering. I decided to follow him because he said that's where the money is. You can get a good job, get paid well. So I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I followed him into it and got a job and did that for several years. But one of the things about corporate America, just to hit this real quick, is that while I'm sure it serves a lot of people well, um, I got to a point where this entrepreneurial spirit in me didn't want to be tied to, be at work at 8 and stay till 5:30 or 6 every day. And, you know, um, I just had this desire to do something else, something with more freedom, time freedom, or, set your own schedule and stuff like that, which is, I do say that one of the best things about real estate is be your own boss. And one of the worst things about it is you're your own boss. So
yeah, yeah.